Hey, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel, and this is Milo from Orangepixel. Welcome to another video, and we're gonna do it from the living room, so you probably know what that means. It's gonna be about business stuff, talking about business type things, something about Regulated City, the game I've been working on for a very long while. It's gonna be good. After the intro. Okay, so as mentioned at the end of last year, Regulated City, I worked on it way too long. I had a little bit of an issue. I needed funding. This is a weird angle. Hang on. So I needed funding for Regulated City. My plan was to start hunting for funding this year. Three options when you need funding for a game: a publisher, a Kickstarter, or investments type things that are not a publisher or a Kickstarter, which pretty much are also investors, but different type of investors. Three options: publisher, Kickstarter, investors. Let's walk through the options. All right, let's get comfortable. All right, so the first option, a publisher. It works for many games, for many developers. A publisher, basically, if it's a right publisher, will fund some of your development, will fund marketing, and they will take a revenue share at the end, but they'll do most of the boring stuff that most game developers, including me, don't really love to do. Marketing, press contacts, setting up stuff on console backends, and all those things. Downside of a publisher, besides that they also need a revenue share, but that's gonna be for most investors or investments. You also in some sort of way give away your game. Once it's done, once you're done developing it and releasing it, it's still your game, but you have no say over the business type things, or very little. Maybe you get some input into it, but the publisher is mostly handling it. So that means doing discounts, sales, pushing it through different platforms, doing other weird stuff with it. You can't, because there's always another party that's pretty much owning your game in some sort of way. Doesn't have to be a problem at all. It works for many game developers and many games. I found it a little bit difficult here and there with Residual, but eventually that all worked out, and it doesn't have to be a big problem, but I preferred to look at the other options. So that's Kickstarter or some sort of investor. The other two options. All right, so a Kickstarter. I did that with Residual. Was a successful Kickstarter. There's not a lot of downsides on doing a Kickstarter. Pretty much that your fan base or the people who are gonna be playing the game or enjoying the thing you're creating, they are pretty much investing upfront or buying your game upfront, and usually they are willing to buy or pay a little bit more for that game. In return, you give them some extras, or you give them early access, or you give them a second copy to hand out to a friend. You make physical stuff to hand out, like figurines or posters, or you name it. That's all an option. It just does require a lot of extra work, and if you're a solo developer, Loki, stop moving the camera. That's the downside. Loki, the downside of recording downstairs with all these cats, and I want them to be in the video, but they prefer to be behind the camera, tearing up the place. Loki, don't do it, Loki. He's sweet normally. All right. This is changing angles again. So the Kickstarter with Residual went pretty much as expected. Didn't raise a lot of money, but the downside of doing a Kickstarter, and this is one that not everybody thinks about, once your game starts selling on Steam, you need to get a lot of reviews in. A lot of reviews means the game will get noticed more and pushed more by the Steam system. The downside of having a Kickstarter, you pretty much give your game to those Kickstarter backers, so their reviews don't count on Steam. They are there, they can be read, they can be seen, but for the system they don't count, because at some point in the past, developers kind of exploited that whole idea. Give a lot of keys to a bunch of friends. In return, they have to leave a positive review, pushing your game up. So I totally understand why it now works like that on Steam, but that does mean if you do a Kickstarter, you lose out a lot of extra clout when you're releasing your game on Steam. Again, it doesn't have to be a huge, big problem at all. It can still work out, because if your game is good enough, you will get enough interesting reviews and positive reviews from people that buy your game. But still, if you have a great Kickstarter with like 100, 200, 300 different backers, that's 300 reviews that don't count in your Steam release. And that kind of holds back your Steam release. I wish there was a better way, and I wish I could explain it easier and better, but hopefully that's just how I think about it. Still, a Kickstarter is a very good option, and I actually had a Kickstarter fully up and running for Regulated City. Or not running, but I had it fully up, all the images, all the backer rewards, everything was there. I might still actually do that at some point. I don't need to, but I might. I don't know. Probably not, but it's there if I need it. So, all right. 2 of the 3 options talked about and kind of shut down as valid option for my game. That kind of leaves only one option: investment for Regulated City. Option 3. So Kickstarter, no. Publisher, no. That leaves us with the third option: an investment company. There are multiple companies out there that you can just Google them. Game investment. There are various ones, they all have different rules on how it all works. I'm pretty much sure that they all work on some sort of a loan agreement type thing, or in that direction. It's an interesting option that's out there. You pretty much keep all the control of your game. Depends a little bit on the investment company, but pretty much you decide everything still on your own. Create the game how you want it, make the game into what you want it to be, release it, marketing, do everything you want the way you want it. So I've been working on a pitch since November, December, writing it both for publisher but also for investment companies. There's a little difference there in what you want to put in such a pitch, and decided in January to start hunting down investment company first. Like I mentioned, publisher can be a great deal, can be very interesting. I actually tried a couple of publishers last year, but the game wasn't as far as it's now. It was pretty early on, and none of the publishers even replied to the email, which, yeah, I don't know. That's just how things work, and they probably get a lot of pitches, and they will just cherry pick the best games they have at that time. So you can always try again with a publisher, because at a certain time they might not have anything coming in interesting, and they might have extra room to publish something. So that's all part of it. It's like a game. You have to be there at the right time, at the right moment, and then maybe you get in. But I also created that pitch for investment companies, and I then sorted the various investment companies I found based on what they offer and what they can do, but also where are they based. And there is one in the Netherlands, created out of various game developers and people from the Dutch game industry. So I thought it would be the first obvious choice, and that's Mid Game Fund. They mostly fund or exclusively fund Dutch games, so perfect fit for me because I am Dutch and they are Dutch, and that seems to be perfect. Didn't expect it to happen. I just figured I'd pitch them and I'll just wait and see what happens, and then I'll pitch the other one and the other one. I had 3 or 4 on my list, but I mailed them the pitch, and like within a day or 2, 3, it was done. The deal was done. I had funding for Regulated City. And why am I not saying that more happy? Yes, I have funding for Regulated City. Mid-game fund, yeah, pretty cool. What does that mean for me, Orangepixel, Regulated City? A couple of things. First of all, I can now actually spend time on this game to wrap it up in the right way. I was preparing it to push it out and just rush it or hurry it out the door. I've been working on the game too long. Various issues, talked about that in many videos on this channel. Please check all the other videos because it's just one big continuation of game development business. Various reasons it took longer than I wanted, but I don't want to wrap it up and just rush it out the door. This game is too good to do that. Also, I invested too much money on my own to now just rush it out and not make back anything at all. So investment allows me to focus on wrapping up the game in a correct way. Also taking the time to do marketing, reaching out to YouTubers, reaching out to press, trying to get my game into certain events, online events, things like that, get it more featured, get more wishlist on Steam. pretty much take all the time I need for that. Not all the time, but a lot of time. Pretty much the rest of the year. I don't have to push Regulated City this year. If it's not ready, if I don't see that the wishlist amount or the interest is there, I can delay it and just make sure the interest does get there. So I have time to do that. Meanwhile, I'll be fixing and tweaking and changing and working on the game a little bit more. But I also have other games in development. It just becomes a lot easier for me to work on all these games at once and not have to decide what to do first and what to do next. I can just work on all of it and make sure Regulated City gets all the attention it needs by the time it does release. That could be the end of this year, 2023, or it could be just early 2024. It really depends on the amount of wishlist and where I'm at and how I can get marketing going. There's also some money now for marketing, so actually either hiring a good PR company or hiring somebody who is capable of doing those things and knows how to do ads and knows how to get in contact with streamers, things like that. I just have to decide what to do and who to go with and who to work with and all that stuff. But that's gonna be stuff I'll do in the next coming months. Figure out how to do the marketing and PR in the right way, in the best way possible, so that this game will actually make back the funding of both mid-game fund, but also me, because I've been funding a lot of this game's development. The first 2 years of development has been on my own dime, pretty much Orangepixel's dime. So all the other game revenue that came in has been funding this game's development. And now we have to push it to the end line in a pretty good way. It also relaxes my head a lot. Not having to worry about money right now because the game is funded. The game, I have the time to do other stuff. I have the time to work on a bunch of games and finish up this game. Having all that rest and peace of mind makes me a lot more creative, and that allows me to work even faster on stuff. So it's a big win-win situation. I can still go with a publisher if I want to. That's still an option. I could still do a Kickstarter. That's just all still an option, even though we have a fund behind it. It's possible to do those things. I'll have to talk to them and figure out how to work it out, but those things are still possible. So who knows, I might still end up with a publisher depending on the deal they want or can do. And they might be able to do great marketing for a game that's pretty much already paid for. So there's no development costs for a publisher, just marketing costs. That makes it possibly interesting for a publisher as well. We'll see how that all goes. Right now, my main goal is to just release it on my own and find some marketing partner or PR company or whatever to handle those difficult things with. Interesting year. It's gonna be an interesting year for sure. And that's where we're gonna wrap up this video. If you have questions about this, drop them in the comments below or come hang out on Discord. I think I covered everything. It's gonna be an interesting year. Regulated City, Heroes of Loot, I got a bunch of stuff to talk about that project. It's insane how fast that project is becoming an actual game. The prototype, I'll probably be working on it in the coming week. I feel like it's struggling a little bit with the gameplay, so I want to focus on that. But and then I also had another great game idea that I wrote down based on the movie Bullet Train. Insane ideas. I'm very creative at the moment, so I'm trying to make the best of that. And hopefully that's gonna be delivering a bunch of interesting games during this year that might all release next year or even later. We'll see how all that goes. Also, when this video goes live, I think Snakecore is on Switch. I should completely forgot about that. Snakecore new release on Switch, coming either as this video goes live or the week after. I completely forgot. Also, Residual is landing on Atari this week. Yeah, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff, and I like it. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go back work in the office. And you want one of these? A baseball cap? You want one of them? I should get you like a little baseball cap. Like, yeah. All right, enough talk. Thanks for watching. Bye.